Alright everyone, we're back on the 2006 Trailblazer, tackling the code P2764. And you saw in my last video, I've gone ahead and taken the bottom of the transmission apart, got some parts inside the garage here. Here is a look at the valve body. Now if you remember what it looked like, man, it was just a mess. It took a while to get a lot of this stuff here, the old gasket material, off. I used a couple things. One thing I did do, I put some carb cleaner and some other things on here just to kind of loosen up this gasket. Then I used a little wheel like this. This is a non-abrasive wheel. This is something that you can remove paint with. Very fine, really no wire in it. I'm not sure exactly what this wheel is, but I did kind of get it off there. But also, the biggest thing that really helped me was a razor blade. This razor blade really helped me get in here and scrape all this small stuff off that was kind of burnt in there, it seemed like. Kind of just lightly go over this. You don't want to scratch into this or putting nicks in it. And also, you can also use sort of something like a pad that has a non-abrasive any wires or anything like that in it, or maybe even just a scuff pad. But so far right now it looks pretty good. I used a whole can of brake clean on it, parts cleaner, got it nice and clean. There was a lot of mud in here. I did take off the shift selector here, and it seems like it's in pretty good shape. Considering what this thing looked like, I'm really surprised that it ran so well. I did take out the plunger over here. That's not the accumulator. This is a, I forget what they call it on this side here. But I did take this out here, and that looks good. This is plastic. It doesn't have a lot of wear in it. It seems pretty good. I don't see any cracks. Basically tucked this apart here just to make sure we didn't have any hidden goop or anything in there. But the good news is here, we finally got our box that we ordered a couple days ago. Came in 2 days, believe it or not. And there it is, our Transgo partial rebuild kit. Got a separator plate here. We got some springs. We'll go over this. This is mainly just some springs and check ball and some things like that. And here is the application model, the 2006, and this is what this goes up to. Got lots of instruction here, very well written. This here's what we're going to try to delete instead of the overdrive slipping. And overdrive, it should go into overdrive a lot quicker and stay there. There's the separator plate. Of course, like I said, mine doesn't go into overdrive at all. This may not even fix the issue. I don't know. It could be something else. But regardless, when I took the separator plate off, my gasket had so much mud, rust in it, it probably could cause the issue. But there is the gasket, so we're going to put this on a little bit later, so I'm happy that came. This is all was $67, that's it. And double your guarantee. Leave us a positive feedback within 72 hours. It's amazing what's on the eBay from the dealers and so forth you can find. Now this plate here does not rust. It's made out of zinc. The one I took off, if you saw in the last video, it was completely just rusted. I was shocked to see just how horrible it was. But this is an updated one. It will not cause any rust problems if you get moisture into your transmission, which you shouldn't have any anyway, but we'll eventually put all this together. So as of right now, we'll go underneath the vehicle and show you what I've done so far. Alright, so here at the bottom of the transmission, trust me, a razor blade is your friend. Now here is a tip. When you take your transmission apart, your valve body and all that, and you will start working on this gasket material right away. It's really hard to get off. I like to leave it set for a day or so, because once the air gets in here and you let this transmission sort of soak a little bit better, where it's not squeezed out in between these little ribs, this stuff actually loosens up and comes off a lot easier, as you can see here. I wish it would have come off this easy on the other part of the valve body, but this just kind of falls right off. And you can still see just a lot of mud and goop in here. It looks pretty clean up in there, which is good. So we got to go ahead and get all this old gasket material off here. Now I did notice up here, which you can't see on the back side here, let me just move the camera. I've had a little bit of transmission leaking. I'm hoping the front pump seal, the O-ring is not bad, causing it maybe not to go into overdrive, but like I said, it's a hard code that I have. It could still be a wiring issue somewhere, but you got to start somewhere, so I figured the valve body would be the first place. So I get all this together, we'll drive it and stuff and see what happens. But if it doesn't work, then we may have to start looking at some other things here, but it's still better than pulling the transmission out right now. But I have had a slight leak here, not a lot, but it kind of drips out. I don't know if it's the front pump seal or if it's just a gasket around the pump, or that little O-ring on the shaft where it goes in overdrive on the torque converter. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead on this 4L60E and go ahead and get the rest of this gasket material up. Get this cleaned off. I'm going to have to go get another can of brake clean. I want to spray that valve body really good again. Make sure I got all the debris out and everything. Once we get it all cleaned up, we'll start putting this all back together, so it shouldn't be too bad of a process. So once we start getting that all together, cleaned up underneath the vehicle, we'll start putting this together here. All right, everyone, on we go. Now you can see I got the valve body nice and clean. This took about an hour, believe it or not, an hour and 20 minutes or so. Got it nice and clean, and I've pulled all the valves out off camera, and everything in it looks pristine. Now, the only thing I found was that someone had tried to block off the PWM, and they didn't do it right. When I ordered this valve body kit, it actually came with a lot of stuff I'm not going to need. I should have just ordered the separator plate and the gasket, which this did come with, but there's a lot of stuff here. If you've already got your transmission torn apart, especially the pump and stuff, you got a boost pump gauge here, valve you can put in, and a whole bunch of other stuff here. So really the only thing I'm going to do is use the gaskets and put the new valve separator plate on it, because it is made out of zinc. It will not rust. So you know, I could have probably just got the gaskets for about $20, but I paid $60 for this. So, you know, for about 40 bucks, maybe I can sell to somebody else. And that is that. So now that I have pretty much got it all cleaned up and everything, one thing I did notice that I still have a plastic plunger on this one here. The accumulator, which is still up in the transmission out there, which you can get to, it's actually metal, so this is the way it came from the factory, so there's really no point in me doing anything else. Like I said earlier, the transmission shifts flawlessly. I just didn't have any overdrive. So we're going to leave everything stock, and here are the gaskets and all this. Of course, you got one here, it says VB, valve body, and the other one is for the separator plate, and they basically kind of go in here like this, and you got your valve body, separator plate. It goes like this, and that'll kind of go in there like that. I'm not going to bother drilling out any holes or anything. I'm going to leave it just the way it is. That is going to be for somebody else down the road. This has only got about 96,000 miles on it, so a lot of these valves, like I said, I took them out, checked the bore on the inside, they look absolutely amazing. What we're going to do, we're going to get rid of this spring here. Now I've taken a brake line. This is about 1 inch and 1.1 to 1.2 inches. You can get your little tape measure, get your caliper gauge, and I've cut this down. And what we're going to do, we're going to get rid of the spring. We're going to put this in here like this. Put that in there like that. And that'll keep this from ever moving again. And we can put our little cap here in. I think you can kind of see that, this cap. When you put it back in and flip it around, you'll see the part that's got a little wear on it. Put that part on the outside, so that port gets blocked off, and put our clip in, and that'll take care of that. Now, I don't know if this was the issue, why I did not have overdrive. This thing could have been just, you know, not the issue, but regardless, it was spun around, so we'll put it back in the right way and see what happens. It might fix it, it may not, but at least I know it'll be done right. There's a lot of write-ups on YouTube, the internet about this, and so forth. So let me go ahead and get that in. The valve body is all cleaned up, and like I said, a lot of these valves here are in excellent shape. So I think maybe with the new gaskets just being all cleaned up, there's a lot of debris in here. Hopefully that'll give me some direction where to go after this. So at least my valve body will be nice and clean, and we'll bolt all this on. And also I want to have a lot of extra parts in the old transmission box, it looks like. Alright, so we got our end cap in, and just like that, it's in. Now that will not move around, it will not oscillate and wear that bore out, and hopefully, well, we'll see what happens. Alright, now let's go out and start putting this back together. Alright, so we're transferring a few things here. We got our big filter, we got it on here, and of course, This little piece here is broken off. Now can't use this one. This actually goes over here. But you know what? For now, I'm going to put it on without it. I can take it off later and get a real rebuild kit later and do this. But for now, I just want to see if it's going to shift into overdrive. Nevertheless, the video may not work out. It may not even fix the overdrive, but at least you'll have some pointers on how to put this valve body back in. So there's, matter of fact, that's what it looked like in the old video. Pretty rusty. So here, the separator plate and the gasket. Basically, I've set that on her like that. Just double check, make sure all the holes and everything lines up and looks good. And up here you'll see a C, a V. That is for the transmission side of the case. And now we'll go ahead and stick this on. And before we put this on, we have to double check a couple check balls here on the transmission side. So the two check balls you got to be concerned about are right here, which this one here will not come out. And there's one that goes right there. I'll just put some Transgel or some heavy duty grease there just to kind of keep that check ball up in there. And that's really all you have to do. And don't forget to grab your spring for your accumulator. We'll set that there, but what we'll do, we'll set this on the valve body and lift it up there. And we'll put a couple of bolts back in here to the bracket that holds this up with a few bolts, and that'll keep this whole thing up in here. And then we grab the valve body and stick it up in there. This is how I do it. Alright, I'll take my rag here and kind of wipe this off really good. I've taken a razor blade, went all over this, and it's in really smooth, clean, non-gasket material. I've checked everything. I don't see really much of anything up in here. That's something you want to do right away before you put the valve body back in, because you don't want any of this debris and trash, you know, falling down in there. So let me double check here, just verify we get everything clean enough. Alright, so we got everything out. I went over the second time, verified it. Now we'll go ahead and grab our valve body and gasket, and I'll get our little spring. I'll kind of set the spring on the housing right here. I think you can see that. Obviously you can't see it. Let me pick it up a little higher for you. Right here like that. We'll stick that up in there, and we'll kind of put that like that. And we'll push this up like this and kind of get it started like that. There's really no pressure on it, and you can see your holes in the gasket, so forth. And let me just verify that our screen, our big screen, is still on. Now, sometimes you can knock them off. It's still on. Obviously, I wish I had the small screen. I know some of you are cringing, but the fluid is going to be pretty clean in it for now. And there's that. And I'm going to grab one of my smaller bolts from earlier and just kind of put it right here just to kind of hold this. Obviously you can't see that because I'm blocking the view. Let me grab a bolt here that actually works. There we go. Just kind of center it up a little bit. And now we'll grab our plate that goes in the back here. We'll stick this on. This is how, you know, you can put this on. And there's that one. Put this bolt here in. There we go. So there was that. And obviously I've lost one of these. You ever put a bolt down and it just grows legs and walks off? Well, that happens to me a lot. I was so careful. I can't find that bolt there. I don't know where it went to. Obviously I gotta start over because I didn't have that tight enough. So let me just pull this back down again. There we go. Alright, now we're back in. Let's try this again. Hold my hand here like that. Start that bolt. Fingers, make sure it's all the way in this time. Alright, there it's all the way in. The gasket is centered. I can see all my holes. I'll take my light and verify all the holes are lined up, and that's it. So I mean, this is how I do it. You can do it any way you want. And all we gotta do now is go ahead and prep for the valve body case, or the valve body. And all right, it looks good. I'm happy with it. So that's how I do that. I'm gonna find this other bolt here, which I cannot believe it walked off. So let me look for that. Actually, let me give you a nice look here at the case. Now, how do you know if you got it on all right? You see the letters right there in that circle. It says CA or CA right there. That's how you know you've done the right thing. So, all right, so there's that. All right, so all of our check balls are in. There's 7. Now, in some of the older models, from what I understand, like the 90s to about 2000, one of them is a little bit bigger, the check ball, so make sure you don't mess that up. But these are all the same size. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I actually took a picture of my phone before I tore it apart to verify where the check balls are. And also I went online and make sure that I didn't see anything that was out of the ordinary. So that's all done. So now we'll go ahead and stick this on. Alright guys, so off camera I kind of cheated. I went on ahead and took my other gasket and just kind of put it on here. What I did, I just held up on the plate, unscrewed this here, dropped it down and put the gasket here, kept holding this up and put the gasket on and put these back in kind of finger tight. Make sure all the holes are all lined up. And now we can go ahead and put our valve body up. And I've got it ready to go up, and I've got a couple bolts here in my hand just to kind of get it ready. When we put it up in there, we'll just put a couple bolts in here loosely and go ahead and kind of get it centered. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and take this bolt back out, let it kind of hang down there, and go ahead and grab a couple bolts here in my valve body, and we'll stick this in here, and hopefully this will work out pretty good. Just take your time at it. You know, you'll have a pretty good idea if you got it lined up fairly well. And don't forget your little detent spring here, your gear shift selector, and all that. And I think right about there is where I want it. And I think we're good right there. And I'll just grab a random bolt here and just kind of stick it in here, get it kind of started with my finger, make sure it's nice and loose, and I'll stick one over here just for now, just kind of get it started, maybe over here, I don't know, here, there, everywhere. Let's try this one here. There we go. These bolts are just to hold it in, and there we go, or it's in. And we can kind of move it a little bit, you know, adjust it, make sure we're happy with the bolt alignment and all that. And we're ready basically to go ahead and bolt this in. And if I back the camera up here, maybe I can give you a little bit better view. And our detent, I don't know why I keep calling this detent, but I got to bolt the detent piece on, but this is the gear shift selector here, manual selector. And we'll bolt this other piece on here in a minute. So it looks like it went on fairly well. It would be nice if this thing shifted into overdrive, but at least you know how I change out the valve body. And if you've never had the valve body off, more than likely it's probably like mine. It's falling apart, crappy, rusty. It doesn't hurt to take it apart and at least clean it up a little bit and see if that helps your transmission problems. So let me go ahead and put some bolts in here, start torquing things down. And the only other thing we have to do is put in our accumulator here, straightforward. Wire it up, put transmission fluid in it, and start it up, and see how it works out. Hey, let me know where you're watching from right now. Alright guys, so we're rolling right along here. All the bolts are in or loose, they're just kind of finger tight, and I want to make sure it's not into a bind. I can kind of move it around a little bit, so that's good. And also on the bottom, I thought I missed a bolt. I lost a bolt, but I didn't. Actually, I had one of these here. In here, there are 2 of these bolts that go into the torque converter lockup solenoid. I actually had a mixed up, There they are. They're smaller ones, so I got them off the side, and those 3 bolts there, they're in like they should be. And I almost forgot to tighten them down, so what I did to get to them here, just pull out your shift solenoids, and you can stick these back in. You can get to them easier, easy access. All you gotta do now is go ahead and torque all these bolts down and hook up the wires, and hopefully we'll have overdrive. We'll see. So let me go ahead and finish up here. Alright everyone, it's all back together, and I'll be the first to admit it's kind of a mess. Got a couple of wires here soldered for now because I got a new wiring harness coming, but it's all back together. It should, for now, be able to start up once we get transmission fluid in it and all that. And I double checked the bolts a couple of times. I went over it a couple of times just to make sure all the bolts were torqued down significantly. And other than that, put the pan filter on, put some fluid in it, and get it back together. At least you know how to get your valve body off now, and how I do it, and how to get it back together. And don't forget to put your detent thingy on so you can feel it clicking with the gear shift when you move it around and all that. And make sure the PWM and the 2-3 shift downshift solenoids in the right place and all that, because they're easy to get mixed up. But the connectors here only go on one way. So alright, so it's ghetto style, but we'll see if we can get it running. We'll see. Let's take it out here in a few minutes and see what we got. Alright everyone, we're cruising down the highway. Beautiful sunny day, all happy. And the big question is, did it work? Do I have overdrive? Wah, wah, wah. No, it didn't work. I actually had kind of a mess on my hands. I did not record this part of the video, but what I had to do, when I put that new separator plate on there and the gasket, it didn't shift right. It just didn't, nothing was working right, and I got concerned. I thought, did I really mess this thing up? So what I did, I took the old separator plate that you guys saw that was all rusty, nasty. I cleaned it up, polished it up, put it back on the vehicle, and now it runs and shifts just fine, just no overdrive. So that other separator plate, I think part of that was my problem, the new one. I didn't drill the new holes in there because that kit wants you to do that. It wants you to drill new holes in that separator plate and also install all those springs and stuff. And really all I wanted to do was change out the valve body gasket. So that's what I did. I put the new gasket on out of the kit, and I reused my old valve body, and now the transmission shifts perfectly, just no overdrive. So I'm really thinking maybe I have a torque converter issue. I have checked all the sensors. I'm getting 12 volts when the key is just on, just like it should to every sensor. So it's that, or the computer is bad, but I kind of find it hard that the computer would be bad. So having said that, at least I got it running back the way it was before. I was really worried there when I put that new separator plate on there. Boy, just from a dead stop, it didn't shift right, and all that. And also, one other quick thing is, if you do this stuff, make sure you put a brand new transmission filter in. I don't care how clean it looks, it doesn't take much to stop that pump from getting fluid. So let's get back to the garage on this beautiful afternoon. Okay, so here's a look at the separator plate. This is the new one. So by me not drilling out some of these holes, I really think that was the issue, why it didn't shift very well. But like I said, the only thing I actually used out of this kit was the gaskets, and I could have got gaskets for about $12. So I'll probably order a set of gaskets, put it back in here, and just kind of put this off the side. Maybe sell it back to somebody that actually can use this. It was about $60, so kind of strange. By me putting my original separator plate back in, it runs just like it did before, just with no overdrive, but we will eventually figure this out. Alright guys, so I don't really have a whole lot more to add. It's just I'm glad I got it shifting back the way it was before. Without the overdrive, it shifts beautifully, but eventually I think we'll figure this problem out. When I do, I will put that video at the end of this video. I'll put a link up for you guys and let you know exactly to what it took to actually fix this P276 code with no overdrive. Until my next video, guys, I'll see you later.